Hello and welcome to Precon Decon, the video series where I deconstruct the pre-constructed decks of Magic the Gathering's history. This video is a little special. Normally in videos I only look at one deck from a block, but in this one we're going to look at 7th edition and we are going to look at all 5 of the theme decks, which sounds mad. You think, oh, this is going to be a super long video. These decks are only 40 cards each, and it being a core set, these are very simple decks. A lot of the creatures in them are like vanilla creatures. It has very low complexity. So I thought rather than do say 5, maybe only 5-minute videos, we'll just plow through. We'll just do all of them and just kind of like zip through them very quickly, look at each one, and yeah, just do an overall summary at the end. So yeah, 7th edition is the actually the first core set that did these theme decks, which set the trend for future core sets to do it as well. And these are all kind of monocolored. They're very simple, just to teach new players like, oh, this is kind of what this is what this color is, and this is what it does well. Yeah, it's fine. And and they're 40 cards, which like I do feel is a bit weird. They could have pushed them up to 60, I guess. But 40 cards, maybe it's there to say to new players, look, you got 40 cards here. Normally we play with 60, so hey, why don't you go away and find 20 more cards you like and add to the deck that way. But yeah, that's just me. I don't know. And obviously these would have been a lot cheaper as well, only being 40 cards as well. But yeah, let's just get into these. So what we have: Armada, Bomber, Decay, Infestation, and Way Wild. Let's start off with Armada, which is the white one. So Decklist here: 16 creatures, 6 enchantments, 3 instants, 15 land. Mana curve off to the side there. Let's just dive into this. So I'm putting just a lot more cards on the screen than I normally do, just because they're all very straightforward. E-Cadet is a 1/1. Knight Errant is a 2/2 for 2. Standing Troops is 3 mana for a 1/4 Vigilance. Samite Healer 1/1 that taps to prevent 1 damage. Crossbow Infantry is a 1/1 for 2 that has a range strike ability. Heavy Ballista is just Crossbow Infantry grown up, and Razorfoot Griffin 2/2 flying first strike for 4. Fine selection of vanilla creatures. E-Cadet does annoy me being in here because there were better creatures in set that it could have been. Like for 1 white mana, E-Cadet annoys me. And then these are slightly more exciting white creatures. Angelic Page, 1/1 flyer, taps to give an attacking or block creature +1/+1 to turn. Sarah Advocate down at the other end is grown up Angelic Page, gives +2/+2. Great art as well. I really like this art on Sarah Advocate. Because this is a mild tangent. I know we were trying to get through these quickly. 7th edition did the thing where every card had new art, and some were really great, like Sarah Advocate and Angelic Page here. I think that Angelic Page art is really, really nice. Some not so much, as we'll see. But overall, I think like a lot of people didn't like the 7th edition art. I personally think overall there's more hits than misses. And some of the reprints, there's some really interesting reprints in 7th edition, not necessarily cropping up in these decks, but yeah, I think it was an okay set, 2 Longbow Archer. I really like Longbow Archer. Really wish this got a reprint at some point. 2/2 First Strike and Reach. Really wish that got reprinted at some point. I'm not sure if it's in a modern frame. I'd love it if it did because I love Longbow Archer. Really, I used to. I got this deck just because I think it had because it was on sale. It was like 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 1/3 price, and I don't know, I just wanted it. And Master Healer is one of the rares. Just it's a bigger Samite Healer. Just taps to prevent 4 damage, which is okay, but just boring. And then a Disenchant, 2 Healing Salve, 2 Pacifisms, Spirit Link, 2 Sarah's Embrace, which is interesting. Sarah's Embrace, great card, just makes something just an immediate threat. And Glorious Anthem. That's actually the reason I think I got the white one, just because it would guarantee a Glorious Anthem and the 2 Sarah's Embrace, which I really liked. Glorious Anthem, really good, just +1/+1 to everything. Again, which is a fine card to have in a beginner level product, because it's an impressive effect and it's easy to understand. Which is a thing for this core set theme decks. Like the cards in it have to really embody what each color does, and it needs to have effects that like a new player would be like excited about. So what could have been, these are just there's not a lot of choice really, but Breath of Life is just a good resurrection spell. I think it would have been fine. Holy Strength, boring but iconic. Staunch Defenders just gives you life. Actually, there's no, apart from Spirit Link, I'm not sure. Oh, Healing Salve gives you life as well. But yeah, when you're doing a beginner product and you're trying to show off what white does, you want things that give life, because like that's obviously what white does, doesn't it? Sarah Angel should have been one of the rares instead of Master Healer. Really disappointing, because this is kind of, I think they tried to make a big deal. They're like, oh, Sarah Angel's coming back, it's a big deal, because it hadn't been reprinted for a while. And like Sarah Angel, such an iconic card. Yeah, this art not wonderful, but yeah, would have been like a really fun big creature to have in it, because like all the other decks have like kind of a kind of a big fancy flashy creature, I think, as one of the rares, and this one doesn't really. It has Master Healer, which is just boring. But yeah, could have had Sarah Angel. Anyway, so that was white. Let's move on to blue. Bomber. So 14 creatures, 7 instants, 1 sorcery, 1 enchantment, 17 land, mana curve off to the side there. So mono blue, it's a bunch of creatures that fly or have evasive abilities. So 1 Merfolk of the Pearl Trident, 1 for 1, whatever. Coral Merfolk, 1 of them, whatever. A lot of one-ofs in these decks. I think maybe just to make things feel a bit more varied and exciting when playing. And also to teach new players about the benefit of having multiple copies of a card. Glacial Wall, really big, solid defender. Would have been hard for a lot. If you were playing these decks against each other, would have been hard for creatures to get over that, because it's a 0/7. Horn Turtle, not as impressive looking at Glacial Wall. Definitely prefer, like, who's going to attack it with Horn Turtle? But it's a 1/4. It's fine. I don't like that art. It looks kind of dorky. Windrake, classic 2/2 flyer for 3. Really good. Not really good. It's fine. I'm getting carried away. I'm trying to zip through these as quickly as possible. Fighting Drake is just Windrake, who's a bit more buff, 2/4, and then Air Elemental, 4/4 flyer for 5. Don't like this art for Air Elemental. It looks like a weird like demon. That's an example of, I think, some of the 7th edition art not really landing as well as it should. Some more blue creatures. So Wall of Air, 1/5 flyer defender, Thieving Magpie, 1/3 flyer. When it damages a player, you draw a card. Merfolk Looter, Prodigal Sorcerer, Sage Owl, which lets you look at the top 4 cards and rearrange them, which is not great, honestly. And one of the rares, Daring Apprentice, which is like such a weird choice as a rare. Like Daring Apprentice is fine. A 1/1 that can be sacrificed to counter a spell, so it just sits there when you need it. But like, such a weird choice for an introductory product, like to have that as a rare. This blue one I think I got as well, because it had guaranteed 2 counter spells. But again, you're trying to show off blue. You need to show what blue does, which is countering and bounce. Blue is, I think, always like, because I've taught a few people how to play Magic over the years. Blue is always the hardest one to teach. Because like green, red, and white are very easy to teach to people, because green is big creatures, white is lots of creatures, and red is like shoot me with spells. Black is then usually I'd say like maybe the next hardest to sort of teach people, because obviously black has a big sacrifice element, and like kind of new players maybe don't really like that aspect of it, like they don't have the full context of why paying life for stuff is good. And then blue is usually always the hardest one to teach, because it's hard to teach about like tempo and countering and stuff. But anyway, so we have a range of blue spells: Unsummon, Force Spike, 2 counter spells, an Inspiration, 2 Boomerangs. Really like Boomerang. I think this was maybe the last time it was printed. It might be an 8th. But yeah, it returns. You can hit lands with it, which it makes it really good. A Confiscate, and then such a weird rare, Ancestral Memories. So 5 mana. Look at the top 7 cards of your library. Put 2 of them into your hand, and the rest into your graveyard. So a weird rare to include in both in this deck and in the set, but it makes sense because after this set we have Odyssey, which has Threshold as a mechanic, so I think Ancestral Memories is a plant for that going forward, just so like it would have been available in stand at the time of Odyssey. Not that I think anyone playing competitively would have used Ancestral Memories to set up their graveyard for Threshold, but I don't know. So what could have been? This is just like an insane wish list of what could have been in here. But Equilibrium, Evacuation, Opposition, 3 really, really good blue cards. I said like 7th edition had some really good reprints. Like all 3 of these, very, very good. And then Temporal Adept, which triple blue, tap, return a permanent to owner's hand. Yeah, I think so. These are all rares. I think any of these, instead of Ancestral Memories and the Daring Apprentice, I think would have been fine. Yeah, it's crazy to think Evacuation and Equilibrium and Opposition were all in seventh. Yeah, really, really good reprints in seventh. Right, the black one, Decay. 15 creatures, 5 sorceries, 2 instants, an enchantment, an artifact, weirdly, and 16 land. Right, so bunch of not very good black creatures, if I'm honest. So Bog Imp is a 1/1 flyer for 2, is terrible. Drudge Skeletons is really good, actually. I'm sorry, Drudge Skeletons. I'm sorry I put you in the same boat as Bog Imp. Drudge Skeletons, you are precious and lovely, and you're great. You have 1 mana regeneration, which makes you amazing. Foul Imp is okay. It's a 2/2 flyer for 2, but it loses 2 life when it comes in. Serpent Warrior is just horrible. It's 3 mana for a 3/3, and when it comes into play, you lose 3 life, and it has like no evasive abilities whatsoever. It is horrible. 2 Gravediggers, which is 4 mana for a 2/2. You get a creature back from your graveyard to your hand. I really like Gravedigger. That art is okay, I guess. Oh, I really want to say the Dredge Skeleton art in 7th. I really like it. Like they're kind of these weird. I'm gonna hate horny skeletons. I'm gonna say it. They're horny skeletons. They're great. Looming Shade, one of them, just again, really good way of sort of showing off to new players, like, oh hey, like black cards, you like it when you put a lot of black mana into them. And Blood Pet, really like Blood Pet. 1 mana for a 1/1, you can sacrifice it to give yourself 1 black mana. Just set yourself ahead like 1 extra 10. Yeah, Blood Pet's really good. I guess they couldn't do Dark Ritual in this set, but Blood Pet I think is okay as a substitute. And then a few more interesting creatures. So Abyssal Spectre is I think it's a 2/3 flyer, might be 2/2. Like a genius, I covered up its power toughness. But when it damages a player, they discard a card. So it's kind of like a nerfed Hypnotic Spectre, which is fine because Hypnotic Spectre is mental. Crypt Rats. This is basically Pestilence on a stick, but you can only spend black mana on its ability, and it's nothing like. It's sort of like Pestilence. It doesn't have repeat activations of it. You spend X at once, and X can only be black, and it does then damage to everyone and everything. So yeah, just a bit of a board sweeper there. Fallen Angel is one of the rares. 5 mana for a 3/3 flyer. You can sacrifice a creature, give it +2/+1 to end to turn. It's fine. Dakmor Lancer, 6 mana for a 3/3, so expensive. When he comes in, you destroy a non-black creature, very expensive for what he does. And then, weirdly, I think this is... No, it's not the only deck with the red one has an artifact creature well. So this has Phyrexian Hulk, which is 6 mana for a 5/4 with no abilities. I feel like this was in because, like, honestly, the selection of black creatures in 7th edition is not great. So I feel like Phyrexian Hulk is just in here to, like, make up numbers. And like give the deck like a little bit of beef just because its creatures aren't very big. Yeah. And then a bunch of black removal spells. So Befoul, which destroys a land or a non-black creature. Dark Banishing, really like this art on Dark Banishing. Like this, the sad merfolk with the Romeo and Juliet flavor text. Yeah, really like that. Really like this printing of Dark Banishing. Corrupt, which is fine. And then Greed is the other rare. 4 mana, 1 black, pay 2 life, draw a card. So again, I talked about this in one of the Apocalypse videos, which I had Phyrexian Arena as one of the rares. But I think it is good to have this kind of effect shown to new players that, like, look, sometimes you need to be able to pay life to get more resources and win. I think and Greed is like a perfectly good way of doing that. And then some discard spells, because obviously that's another iconic thing Black does. So Duress, Mind Draw, Ostracize, which all do discard in different ways. And then weirdly, this is the only the preconstruct decks to have an artifact that just is Charcoal Diamond, just a mana rock. I don't think any of the others have like a mana rock like this, and I'm not sure why this one does. I feel like this could have just been like... I mean, I'm glad it's not just an extra swamp, but I feel like it could have been something a bit more interesting. So it could have been... I think it would have been fine to have Raised Dead in addition to... I mean, you could have had this instead of the Charcoal Diamond. I think it would have been fine to have Raised Dead in as well as the Grave Diggers, just to, again, that shows off what Black does, which is get stuff back. Nightmare is like such a iconic Black card in sort of starter level products. Because again, it's like a big exciting effect that for new players that like, it's this, oh, it has power and toughness equal to the number of swamps you control, and like, oh look, you've got a lot of swamps, that means there's a big flying creature. And also this art is so good. And same with the Raised Dead art, so good. Carl Critchlow, he is a great artist. He does a lot of really good Magic the Gathering art. And then one of the other possible rares, Reprocess. Um, so this, I think, was originally in Urza's, and I don't think it's been reprinted since, but it's 4 mana. You sacrifice any number of things you have, and you draw a card for everything you sacrificed. Yeah, again, like really good reprint in 7th. Reprocess, yeah. Right, the red one, Infestation, which is a bunch of goblins. So 16 creatures, 5 sorceries, 3 instants, 16 lands, mana curve off to the side there. Right. I say, bunch of goblins. So 2 goblin chariots, which are 2/2s with haste. Goblin digging team is a 1/1 for 1, and it taps to destroy you sacrifice something to destroy a wall, which is fine, I guess. 2 goblin raiders, which is a 2/2 that can't block. Great. Goblin glider is a 1/1 flyer for 1. 1/1 flyer for 2 that can't block. Goblin matron, actually not terrible. 3 mana for 1/1 that searches your library for any goblin and it goes into your hand. Actually pretty good. Goblin Gardener. This is unfortunately, I don't know why, off Gatherer, this was the best. This is the image they have for Goblin Gardener. So the colours are weirdly saturated, but this is how it is on Gatherer, and I know it looks terrible. But Goblin Gardener is not awful. 4 mana for a 2/1. When it dies, you destroy a land. So not terrible. And then Raging Goblin, with the very iconic flavor text of he raged at the world, at his family, and his life, but mostly he just raged. 1/1 for 1 with haste. Yeah, it's fine. Bunch of goblins. And then, thankfully, a Goblin King to buff up all your goblins. So yeah, it's kind of fun that this is the only 7th edition theme deck to have a tribal theme, which again is a fun thing to show off to players. Like, oh, by the way, hey, that creature type, sometimes it's not just it's not just words. Sometimes it matters. So all goblins get +1/+1 to have Mountain Walk. This is before Goblin King counted himself as a goblin, which is always weird to think. And he obviously it's an old lord templating, so he benefits your opponent's goblins as well. But yeah, fine rare to have. The other rare, not so much. Trained Org, 7 mana for a 6/6 with no abilities. That is a tragic rare to have. Yeah, just really terrible rare to have. Fire Elemental, yeah, I don't like that art for Fire Elemental. That looks really goofy. Yeah, 5/4 for 5, it's fine. And the artifact creature here, Patagia Golem, 4 mana for a 2/3, pay 3 to give it flying till end turn. I really like that art. That it looks like a weird kind of clockwork angel. But yeah, it's not a very good card. And then a bunch of burn. So a single lightning blast which does 4 damage, 2 shocks, a blaze, spitting earth does damage equal to a creature equal to the number of mountains you control, which is fun. And then this is really unexpected. And then suddenly out of nowhere, like 2 pillagers, and pillage is really good because it destroys artifacts or lands, and it's 3 mana. Yeah, pillage is really good. So again, like another really good reprint to have in 7th edition there. So what could have been? So instead of the org, so many two options I thought. So coat of arms, which is like probably a little insane, but like, come on, just give the goblins coat of arms, you cowards. Which coat of arms really good in a tribal deck. The only reason I think it should be in here because it specifically mentions goblins in the reminder text. It's like it's made for it, Failing that, Final Fortune, which is like it's again really like fun. I really like this effect in red, whether you get the extra turn, but you have to win in that extra turn. I think that's always like such a fun last ditch effect. I really like it, and it would have been fun in here as well. Other potential cards like Goblin War Drums. How do you have a deck full of goblins and not have Goblin War Drums? Gives all your creatures menace, which is really good. And then Orcish Oriflamme gives all your attacking creatures +1/+0. That just would have been fun to have. Right, and then we'll look at the last one, which is the green one, Way Wild. 17 creatures, 4 enchantments, 3 sorceries, 1 instant, 1 artifact, 14 lands. All right, bunch of big fat green creatures because that's what green does well. So we have 2 giant spiders, which is 2/4 reach, 3 grizzly bears, redwood tree folk, which I think is a 3/6, and looks like Groot, which is a thing, I guess. Spined worm, which is a 5/4, trained armadon, which is a 3/3, gorilla chieftain, which is 3/3 with regeneration, which makes it more fun, and then Pride Alliance. That That art is so horrible for Pride of Lions. This is again another thing with 7th edition. Like sometimes the art is really good. Like on Spined Worm and Grizzly Bears, I think, and Gorilla Chieftain, I think all that art is really good. Oh, what a surprise! It's Carl Critchlow. What a surprise! The art by Carl Critchlow is really, really good. And then the one on Pride of Lions looks horrible. Pride of Lions, interesting, has this ability where it does damage as though it wasn't blocked. I think the reasoning was that there was like design articles at the time where they thought like trample was too complicated for like core sets, so they specifically didn't use creatures with trample. Instead, they did this kind of ability where like, oh, it does its damage as if it wasn't blocked, because yeah. um, so they wouldn't use trample, but they would use regeneration, which I would argue is like a much more complex ability for a new player to understand. But whatever. And then a few more green creatures. So 2 Llanowar Elves, good. Findhorn Elder, which is basically a bigger Llanowar Elves. Wood Elves, which gets you a forest straight into play, which is good. And then the 2 rares, Thorn Elemental, big 7/7 with I say mega trample, I suppose we'll call it that. And Ancient Silverback, who is, if you've been watching the videos for a while, I got like a little bit, I got a little bit too into Ancient Silverback in one of the Urza's theme decks. Yeah, I think it's just a big 6/5 for 6, and it has 1 mana regeneration. I just have a real weakness for things that that only pay 1 mana for regeneration. I just think they're really good. But yeah, and then a bunch of enchantments, which is weird. It's like kind of the only of these seventh theme decks that have like this kind of enchantment, that kind of use enchantments a lot. So Blanchwood Armor just gives a creature +1/+1 for every forest you control, which is like a really big, exciting, fun effect, especially again for new players. Lure, I hate this art on Lure, just like the big green giant going like, "Come into the forest." Yeah, but Lure is, Lure is obviously like a really good effect. Regeneration. There's just no reminder text. Just regenerate enchanted creature. New players will know what that means. Sure. And then Wild Growth, which just is kind of like Fertile Ground, but limited, only gives extra green. 2 Creeping Mold, which destroys artifact, enchantment, or land. I really like Creeping Mold. I think it's pretty good. Just very versatile. Is always guaranteed to have a target for it. Only 1 Giant Growth, which is a little disappointing. Would have been nice to have more than 1 Giant Growth, because again, it's such an iconic green spell. And then Stream of Life, which is not very good, but it's there to show off new players love life gain, don't they? So this is fine to have it. And then a single Rod of Ruin. Rod of Ruin's not a great card, but it's fine in here, I guess. In the green deck where you don't have any options of dealing indirect damage, it's okay. And then what could have been Secret Skybreak, again, like a really good 7th edition reprint, and I really like that art of it. It's really good. Secret Skybreak just has this fun ability where you tap it to untap target another creature, and it's I think it's really good. Elvish Piper, newbies really like Elvish Piper. I can't like Elvish Piper, but I guess I'm a bit of a Timmy at hand. Just paying 1 green to just put a creature straight into play. Really fun. Might of Oaks. This could have been potential, just like because it's a really big pump spell. Just like suddenly out of nowhere, go haha +7/+7. Really, that's just fun. And then Reclaim. It's just a way of getting cards back on top of library, kind of limited regrowth. So yeah, overall, so that was the seventh edition theme decks. Overall, I think they are good at what they are meant to do, which is introduce new players to the game, kind of show off what each color is meant to do, each color's kind of strengths and weaknesses. They are very simple in that regard, but I think these would have been a fine stepping stone from this onto the theme decks then of other sort of main sets. So yeah, overall, I have some fondness for these. Yeah, out of all of them, I'd say probably the blue one is like just a little, is a little weak just because like its rares are a bit weird. But the blue one was one I ended up buying just because it was guaranteed like some counter spells and boomerangs, which is a card I really liked at the time. But yeah, overall, I think these were all really, really good. I liked them. These would go on to be the kind of baseline which all the core set theme decks are measured against. But yeah, these are fine. Again, just wish they'd been maybe 60 cards instead of 40, but for the time, I think they would have been fine. A good cheap way for new players to get into the game. So yeah, that was the 7th edition theme decks. But yeah, thank you for watching and listening. I will be back next time to look at the start looking at the Odyssey block theme decks. But until then, thank you for watching and listening. Stick a comment below if you had any of these, and if you played with them. If you got into the game by using one of these decks, that'd be really fun to know. Yeah, stick a comment below. But yes, we'll be back next time. Thank you for watching and listening. Have a great day.